Hi guys, so today I just wanted to make a quick video on what I believe are the 7 best schools for ranked legendary PvP in this meta. Obviously what I mean by that is actually the worst to best top 7. So I'll get right into it. Number 7 would be Storm, in my opinion, right now, because their HP is very low. They essentially need to have positive RNG to win a game. For example, like a max wild bolt or very perfect card draws. There's a very common opinion which Stefan Fire actually voiced on David Lotus's video from months ago, that Fire can't actually blade. And what he meant by that is that the best way to play Fire is to pressure offensively to an insane degree, and in order to do that, especially in mid levels, you essentially don't even have time to fire blade. So you infoul and you hit, which is why I always tell Fires all you need to do is infoul, Sally, Brimstone, GG, pretty much, right? And then you can fire elf if you want. Don't link, don't ifrit, damage isn't high enough, you don't have time. So Storm number 7, right? Now for number 6, and I can run around if you guys want, so this isn't boring. But for number 6, I'm actually going to put the Myth School, guys. And the reason I'm going to put the Myth School is because I would argue that Balance is not the school that has balanced stats. To be honest, Balance is cracked. Myth is actually the school that has the most balanced stats, in my opinion. Their HP is kind of down bad, as well as their pip percentage according to traditional sets, because obviously, as I'm sure many of you are aware, the waterworks gears that give accuracy are the worst ones, because pip percentage, right, my stats are whatever right now, but pip percentage is more valuable than accuracy, I would argue, because of infallible, and also just literally statistical math, right? So unless your school kind of sucks, your accuracy, you won't fizzle that much. You won't base fizzle that often. But trust me, you guys all know, if you have even 80-something% power pip, you're gonna pip fail every 3 turns, to be honest. So that's why I'd rank Myth number 6, because their stats are just, they're not complete enough. They need better pips, and they definitely need more HP. Alright. It's kind of going back and forth from this point on, but I would probably put Fire at number 5 for 2, maybe 3 reasons. Number 1, their stats overall are pretty poor. Kind of for the similar reasons to Myth, but you could argue Fires are even worse, or without even a question, really, because their accuracy is worse. Their waterworks gear doesn't really give damage, etc. Okay. Yeah, number 2, I feel like nobody even knows how to play Fire. I probably have lost to 1 or 2 Fires since I've been back to Wiz. Obviously I only do mid-levels, but that's still indicative, because I've probably faced probably 20 to 25 Fires in ranked PvP, and I've lost 2 to 3 times. One of those times was to Diego. So imagine losing to a Fire to Diego. It's kind of, and I wasn't jading, so imagine how the fuck they were playing, right? Alright, I don't want to linger too long. If you guys have any questions or want to debate me on any of these, feel free to comment. I've done several hundred matches at Legendary in late 4th age, so yeah. Alright, number 4, I'm actually going to put Life. I want to put the Life School here, and the reason I'm going to put the Life School here is because Life doesn't have a great answer to set shields in general. Now maybe the Shambo spells change that, but Lifes have actually just started jading since they changed since they introduced their new PvP update. The thing about jading on a Life, at least at mid-levels, is you kind of don't have the HP to survive a combo, or a double buffed hit or anything like that, a strong, a 7 pip or a 6 pip with an enchant, an infoul. So Life is a little down bad for that reason. I mean, their damage over time is still a weird one, right? It's a weak Wings of Fate, so it heals them. It's hard for them to deal a lot of damage. And actually, I would argue, especially my Balance, the character I'm using the most to queue right now to post videos, Life, I'm not saying there's not, obviously there's fucking great Life Wizards, because Life's stats are cracked, but life against balance is not amazing, in my opinion, at Legendary. And life versus menu schools is arguably an unfavorable matchup. Like, they essentially rely on the fact they can heal if they need to, and they can deal a lot of damage if they need to, but they don't really. They tend to be defensive, spam Weaver, and overall, like, if Spellmented Leprechaun wasn't a thing, they probably wouldn't even have been that good in the previous meta. Unless you play aggro life, which no one does. That's what Jennifer Shade used to do. And that's why their rank was so bloody high, being legit compared to other legends, because they're aggro life with good ass stats, which is how I play balance, because defensive schools played offensively are fucking great, which is why I've always thought that ice is the best school in game, because if you go aggro on an ice, your base resist and like HP will likely still be high as shit, so you'll just get away with it. You can start cracking people, you feel me? So what is that? Number 4? I think so. Number 3, this is where I'm going to put balance, and obviously I don't need to go into much detail. Like, you guys have watched some of these videos, hopefully. If not, please check some of them out, at least the shorter ones. Might be easier to digest there. But the only reason I'm putting balance in number 3 is because I think number 2 and number 1 are better. So I'm not even going to go into detail about balance. They deal a lot of damage, they have well-rounded stats. You already know the deal. They can kind of hit with any school, even without masteries, so it's good against all the fucking wards, you know, and set shields and whatever. And the Shambo actually kind of helps. I've started to try to use them, kind of awkward with them, but like, because 3 white pips is kind of like a shit effect. I don't even want 3 white pips, to be honest. Like, I hate when I pip fail. So then I'm stuck with like 2 power pips and 5 white pips, and it's like, what the fuck am I doing? Just lose. I actually like lose. If I like misplay the Shambo and clog myself, I tend to actually lose the match, which is hilarious, right? Well, I guess it literally is a Rochambeau, right? That's why it's called that. So, number 2. Now this is a toss-up because I feel like the best ices in game, especially if warded, could beat the best deaths, or could beat the standard deaths you face in queue, because death is pretty brainless. But number 2 is going to be ice. Maybe for the sheer and simple reason that they don't deal that much damage. Their accuracy and or their pips will tend to be bad. And yeah, so they have very, very, very great tank stats, but they're arguably not well balanced overall. And at Legendary, it really is an offensive game. Like, that's why, which is funny, the only 2 schools that can get away with jading at Legend, in my opinion, are a perfectly played death, and that's mostly just because of Virulent Plague. So if you have like good pips on a death, and you Virulent, and you weakness, and you heal, you know, high incoming, high outgoing with a life mast, maybe get away with it. Like Nicole Rainbow Gem, I literally lost to her knowing she was a Jade, and I was just like, well, this is awkward. And yeah, so jading on an ice is also possible. Obviously, I mean, I don't know if some of you guys know like Orin Lotus, and I'm like, fucking, I don't know, bro. I'm like 1-2 or 2-2 against his ice, and both the losses were like timer, and it was just incredibly boring. I practically wanted to flee. I didn't even try to like play fast, because I was like, bro, this is just, I'm either gonna win legitly or I'm not. And yeah, also he obviously bloodied uses the fucking timer exploit, because there's one match where I played the first match I ever played against him when he was jading. I didn't know he was jading, and I always play fast because I want to mess people's deck management up, right? Like their card management. So I play hecka fast, and I lost. Like, and he wasn't even like, he was literally not even playing fast. And so yeah, I mean, there's no other way around it. Like, he obviously DC'd turn 1. I think he literally went down to like 1 second or 3 seconds or something. So obviously he DCs. Right, and he wouldn't be like winning that many other matches if he was literally just straight jading, no matter what he says. So yeah, last but obviously not least, and I'm not gonna go all the way to night side. I could, but the loading screen's probably annoying for you guys. So I'm gonna go over to what was his name, Malorn Ashthorn, my boy, my OG mans in the Ravenwoods. Yeah, death. So you already know, bro. It's the same problem at Max right now, right? You got drains. they got high ass, just like they have good offensive stats overall with like good defensive stats. They're kind of just a menace. You feel me? So it's really, you know, open scarecrow, and then if they have a debuff like monster mash, just deals like way too much. They tend to crit everything, and since they spam poison, they actually hit a lot. Like I would argue death is one of the schools that hits you the most, because they'll wand hit your towers, poison your death shields, and then they'll just crack you with an open drain, and then you basically lose because the max HP a legend isn't that high. So like any significant healing off a chunk you took off them will basically turn the tide of the match, right? Because like a regular legend match, assuming one of them is not like a super cancerous Jade, will tend to be rather fast, especially compared to a max match, even with between two skilled players. Like aggro versus aggro could take 5-6 rounds, you know. So yeah, I mean, I think that's my ranking. It's my first video with a face cam, but the reason I did this was to like try to not be boring as shit. Yeah, so hopefully this was alright, and I'm gonna try to upload this today. And if you want to keep mid-level PvP alive, please like and subscribe. Take care.